Jump rings are the unsung heroes of every jewellery project. You use them to connect practically everything from dangles to clasps. But it's important to use them the right way so that they keep their perfect round shape. Today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about jump rings, what they are, what types and sizes you can buy, and how to use them correctly so that you can create strong pieces with a flawless finish. Jump rings are one of the most common supplies that we use in jewellery making. They are used to connect things and add things. While we usually use jump rings as the supporting act, they can also take centre stage. If you take a look at the vintage necklace recreation, it's almost entirely made of jump rings connected together, making the jump rings the feature of the necklace. Here's another example of using jump rings as the star of the show. In this chainmail bracelet, I connected all of the jump rings together. Then I used memory wire to connect them and add the beads. Most of the time though, we use jump rings to connect items together. In this Trinity earring, I used jump rings to connect the textured rings here, and I also used them to connect the little dangles. On these mermaid earrings, I used jump rings to connect the back of the earrings. So I used these U-shaped connectors and I connected those with jump rings. And as you can see, the jump rings are doing all the hard work on the back there. We also use them for attaching clasps. You can see here, my clasp is attached with a 4mm jump ring, and I'm using a 6mm jump ring for the closure. So the clasp does up into the 6mm jump ring. Now, if you're interested in making any of these pieces along with the jewellery I'm wearing today, I will leave you links in the description box below to all of these projects. So as you can see, jump rings are pretty important. Let's have a look at some jump rings and have a chat about their characteristics and how they work. So what is a jump ring? A jump ring is just a ring of wire. It can either have a split in it or it can be soldered closed. They come in all shapes and sizes. These ones are all round, and this one is a triangle, and this is an oval. I personally mostly use round jump rings, but sometimes an oval jump ring is more secure because the split is in the side and it's away from where the pressure is. The split in the jump ring enables you to open it so you can feed on components and close it again. Let's talk about the sizes that jump rings come in. Now I've got some in front of me, but this is by no means a comprehensive selection. It is just a small selection of what is available. So down at the end here, I have a 4mm jump ring. So as you can see, it is a tiny wee jump ring. Next, I've got a 6mm jump ring. Once again, quite small, but a little bit larger. I tend to use 6s and 4s most. This is an 8mm jump ring, and this is a 10mm jump ring. Now this one is also a 10mm jump ring, but I wanted to show you the difference between these two jump rings. If I hold these jump rings together, you can see that they are quite different. Even though their size around is the same, the gold one is a lot thinner than the silver one. This one is an 18 gauge wire and this one is a 20 gauge wire. And remember that the thinner the wire, the larger the number. So 18 gauge is thicker than a 20 gauge. If I'm looking for jump rings, I am usually looking for a thicker gauge as they hold better, except in my 4mm, which is generally a thinner gauge. Because of the size, it still holds well. This one here is a 20mm and a really heavy gauge wire. So it is thicker and nice and sturdy, but it is harder to work with. Now you can also buy soldered jump rings. What that means is that there is no split and I can't open it. So these ones are good for closing your clasp into. I also have here a split ring. Now some people prefer to use them as jump rings because they are more secure in certain situations. Personally, I never use split rings. The difference between a split ring and a jump ring is the number of rings. A jump ring is usually one circle and a split ring has 2 circles. You can see there, that's 2 circles. Split rings can be hard to open, but you can buy a special tool to help you. You can't open a split ring wide and feed things on. You have to feed the components around the circle, so it makes it much more difficult. If you're enjoying this episode, remember to subscribe and hit the like button. And if you are subscribed and still not seeing my videos, then please consider subscribing to my newsletter. That way I'll email you every time I upload a new tutorial. Now let's look at opening and closing jump rings. There's a right way and a wrong way to open jump rings, and I'm going to demonstrate with the 20mm ones so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. Hold the jump ring on either side with the split at the top or facing away from you, and then you're going to turn your hand down So for me, this is my right hand because I'm right hand dominant, but you might use your left hand to turn down as well. And now you can see that that jump ring is really wide open and I could feed something onto that. Now to close it, you hold it on the side like this and you pull your hand back up. Now you will feel it kind of grate together if it's closed properly. I'm going to show you in a minute what to do if it doesn't close properly. You do not want to hold your jump ring like this if you can help it. There are some circumstances where this is it's just impossible to hold them on the side. But the problem with holding them like this is that you will often bend the jump ring here. That's not what you want. Now you should never open a jump ring like this, because when you open a jump ring like that, it changes the shape of it. So if you try and close it like this, you can see there I have completely destroyed my jump ring. It's no longer round, it's not closed properly. I could probably play with it a little bit to make it work. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I could make it work. No, I'm not going to be able to make it round again. So once you've done this to your jump ring, it is impossible to make it round again. So we don't use that method. We always hold our pliers on either side and open it that way. So what if your jump ring doesn't close? If your jump ring doesn't close on the first try, it is really easy to fix. So this one here isn't quite closed. You can see there's a gap in the top there. To fix that, what I do is I hold it on either side with my pliers, just like before. And this time I'm going to go up and down, and I might need to do it more than once. And as I go up and down, I'm going to push my right hand set of pliers towards my left hand, or vice versa. I'm pulling up, and as I go down, I'm moving my pliers towards the other side. There we go. Now you can see that it's closed. So just up and down, pushing one hand towards the other. Now I also like to check my jump rings from the top. You can see it's not actually quite closed. So to fix that, what I need to do is just move it a little way back. Now I tend to go a little bit further than I need to, and it kind of springs back a little bit. There we go. Now the wire is in line. It's still got a little bit of a gap, but honestly these jump rings are so thick it's really hard to close them properly. Now I've got another one here that is crossed over, so if I try to close that, this side is going to bump into that side. Now sometimes with thinner jump rings, I won't be able to do it with this one, but with thinner ones you can just give it a squeeze like this, a really hard squeeze, and sometimes it pops into place. It's not going to happen this time. So let's see if I can close this one properly. So I do exactly the same thing. I pull it up, and as I go down, I'm going to pull my hand that way, away from the other pliers. There we go. And now that one is nicely closed as well. So if the jump ring is not closed, you wiggle, 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 pushing together. If it's crossed over, you wiggle, 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 pulling apart. Okay. I'd like to interrupt this episode to thank the members of the Style Makers Network for making this episode possible, and ask you if you would consider joining the membership. There's lots of extra content and bonuses for you over there, and monthly challenges. It also helps me to continue to bring you free content here on YouTube. So how do we use jump rings? Now you know how to open and close jump rings, let's have a look at how to use them. Once you have your jump ring, you just feed components on. In this case here, I have made a couple of little dangles, and I'm going to attach them on either side of this textured ring. Now this one, by the way, is not a jump ring. It is a textured ring, which is completely different. It's a component rather than a jump ring. It has no opening, and it is a beautiful texture. So you use that for connecting things too, but in a different way. Now, if you're wondering why I'm using a jump ring to connect this instead of just using the loop here, there are a couple of reasons. Firstly, the loop is not big enough to fit the textured ring on. It could potentially fit on there, but it wouldn't look right. And the other reason is that if I was to put the ring onto here, it would sit really weird. It would be quite tight in there and just not sit flat. Now we often use jump rings to change the direction of things as well. So if I was to put this on here, it would sit like that, but I'm going to add a jump ring and then put it on. So just taking my jump ring, using a decent sized one this time, and holding it on either side and turning my hand down. I'm going to feed on my little dangle, whoops, jumped off, and I'm going to put on my textured ring, and I'm going to close that up. And it didn't close the first time, so I'm going to wiggle backwards and forwards a bit, pushing one hand towards the other, and I'm going to check it from the top, which is closed properly. And there's the textured ring with the component attached. Nice and easy, and it will hang really nicely. You can see there it's hanging really nicely off that ring. That would actually make quite a cool little earring if you used a head pin instead of a loop on this end. All right, now I'm going to attach my other component to this one as well, just taking another jump ring and my pliers. Now these jump rings I'm using are a 6mm with an 18 gauge wire, so they're a good sturdy jump ring. There's nothing worse than having a jump ring pull apart on you when you've put hard work into a project. If your jewellery is falling apart, that is often the problem. It's not quite close, so I'm going to come up and push it over. All right, so there is my textured ring with my two components attached with a jump ring. So I also wanted to show you this earring, and here I've used 3 4mm jump rings to extend the length of the dangle. So if I hadn't extended it, the dangles would have been way too short for this particular earring. So I needed to make it just slightly longer. And I used 3mm jump rings because they were the same or a similar size to my loops, and it gave me the right amount. Okay, if I'd used two 6mm jump rings, it probably would have been the same length, but it would have looked weird. So choosing your jump rings in proportion to your project is also really important. So that's all about how to use jump rings. Remember to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and have found it helpful. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.